Sì,
Sì. Sì. Evet, saatlerimiz 13'ü gösteriyor.
This is 1 hour at the moment. Esteemed guests, esteemed members of the press. Well, it's not a joke actually. It seems that we have an amazing PC who's listening to us. It is actually someone who sees the beautiful attention of Typhoon. Well, welcome to the award ceremony of the Future of Automotive Design competition. We are holding this 10th edition of the competition, and Baran Çelik is invited to the floor to talk further about the competition. Esteemed guests, project owners, Automotive Industry Exporters Association has been organizing this R&D and innovation event in the format of a competition, and Automechanika Istanbul has organized this award ceremony for this competition. These are the projects that will shape the future of the industry, and these finalists, I would like to thank on behalf of them for this opportunity. Digital transformation has continued to shape the automotive industry. Each and every day, we've seen a significant change, and we've seen significant innovation and transformation in this industry. Anything that was quite surprising for us yesterday isn't necessarily something new for us. They're basically the subject matter of the R&D activities today. So supporting these kinds of endeavors will also help us increase the exports volume of the country. And this is why we are working at full speed to further support them. So young exporters will have a lot of contributions to Turkey's economy. They have all exhibited us what kind of contributions they can do with their efforts. And as OIB, we have always maintained this organization and competition. There were applicants, and when we reviewed it, it seems that we've taken the right step, and everything is ongoing, on track at the moment. Mobility ecosystem and solutions was the topic of this competition, of this year's competition, and I would like to congratulate the winners of this competition. This is only a start for you and for us as well, and we will have contributions to the maintenance of the success. You will continue to further develop your project in ITU's incubator system, and you'll have a chance to perform and demonstrate yourselves at big events like Big Project. You'll also have the chance to take part in the startup stage of various organizations, and in this period we will always step in to support you whenever you need. The future lies in your hands, and will always stand by you. We'd like to congratulate you once again, and we'd like to wish you further success. We're not gonna let Baran go because he's going to present the awards. Where are our awards, by the way? Where are they? And now, Uludağ Automotive Industry Exporters Association Deputy Chairperson of the board, Mese Frankfurt Show Director Can Berkin, and Automechanika Istanbul Fair Director Alemdağ Sönmez, you're all invited to the floor to present the awards. Our shields are fresh and new, just like a fresh loaf of bread from the bakery, but at the end of the day, they're here. Although a little bit late, so it seems that everybody is greeting one another on the stage. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our finalists. The fifth place goes to hologram viewing and AI technologies, smart vehicle assistant Serdar Sumatoğlu. So using AI technologies, so it establishes sensory relations and ties. Hologram views are also utilized here. So this is a smart vehicle. So sensory emotions and relations. This is what strikes my attention. I'd like to talk about the sensory and emotional ties and bonds. Serdar's shield is on the way. Sardar is going to be in the middle. So now that he's in the middle, we can have his photos taken. Dear members of the press. So artificial intelligence, face recognition, emotion recognition, presenting suggestions according to emotions, reading the news, transmitting weather forecasts, emailing, reminders, note creation, visual demonstration of the notes, and voice controls. Well, this is such an interesting project, really, especially for this emotional recognition. And I wonder what kind of features will be added to the upgraded version of that. This is the 10th edition of Automotive Future and Design competition. And this is one of the finalists, 5 finalists, Serdar Sultanoğlu. A big round of applause, please. Serdar Sultanoğlu. So fourth place, hybrid technologies, millimetric precision, location-based measurements is the subject of this project. Çağatay Karademir, a big round of applause, please. The basis of the project is to do with the production staff. So this is a system involving cameras and hardware. So this is precise or sensitive location recognition. What I understand is that it's not going to be possible for the staff to evade jobs or tasks. I think bosses will like it. Third place goes to more efficient warehouses and automatic data collection robots. Bostancı, the floor is yours. Project Group, Sercan Çağdaş Tekgök, Ermes Övülmez, and for sure, Bekir Bostancı. More efficient warehouses, collaborative, autonomous data collection robots is the theme of this project. Skytech, is this becoming real? Big round of applause, please. Congratulations.
Diğer finalistlerimizi çağıracağız. Hidrojen yakıt hücreli araçlar için 6 kat ve
So 6 times more efficient cells and membranes is the subject matter of the next project, Erhan Demircioğlu. So this also addresses the possibility of scarce fossil fuels. So this actually pushes us to focus on alternative fuels. So membranes is another alternative for that. So this seems to be a little bit more reasonable. Hydrogen, I mean. This is the name of the project. This is the second finalist. Erhan Demircioğlu is on the stage with this project. I'm sure that many of us love driving, and if you don't, probably there are people who make them love it. Well, people who with whom they feel comfortable with. Automobiles actually think on behalf of you, think and feel in front of you, warn you. So in a way, they protect you and they observe what you're there, what you're up to. So this is the mission of new automobiles. I have an automobile dating back to 85, and there is not even a spot where I can put my coffee because it was not something that was considered. I think Starbucks didn't exist back then, or chain coffee sellers didn't exist back then. There are only spots for me to play cassettes, but now that I don't have cassettes, it's just empty. So this is the top place. Well, I've talked about it a lot, but this is the first time in Turkey. Autonomous driving is something that's real. I'm looking into the eyes of Tayfun at the moment. This is actually something that turns the drivers into passengers, two by wires. Well, fly by wire is what we call on Airbus and other aircraft. Janajar, a big round of applause, please. So, transformation of drivers into passengers. So the wheel doesn't really matter where it is. It may be on the left hand side or right hand side, but it can actually be placed everywhere with this project. I can see that look on some of the people's faces. John, please come here a little bit. Please talk about your project a little bit.
Böyle öncelikle çok teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much, first and foremost, for deeming me worthy of this award. This is a great source of pride for me because we're talking about the future of automotive here. Well, because you are people who allocate significant amount of time and efforts and tears to the future of automotive, and these kinds of competitions are quite important for us. This is a great source of pride. Steel by wire isn't something that's new. This is something for automotive. Fly by wire is something that we see on aircraft. Well, to talk about it briefly, this has to do with digital data and driving with digital data. That's all it's about. And as drivers, we always have psychological limitations while driving. And the first thing is mechanical components related with the steering wheel. And with steer by wire, we are basically saved from this. And this is a great flexibility for the vehicle architecture. Autonomous driving becomes something that's meaningful because there's always this question, okay, the car will drive by itself, but what about the driver? What will it do? So this is the general question, but now we answer this question. So the fifth level autonomous driving, if this is what we would like to achieve, the greatest handicap here is safety. And for us to assure safety, steer by wire is something that can easily address that. So you basically provide a great space of freedom for the driver, but this impossible looking fifth level autonomous driving is possible now. So this is the system that I'm talking about at the moment. And steer by wire, well, it can be in terms of functional safety, it can address all the requirements. So this is actually one of the companies that is focused on this area, and technologies that don't exist in Turkey, we always continue to develop that. Thank you very much. That's all from my side. Janajar, we would like to thank Janajar for this. So these kinds of smart men may forget, well, little details. It's easy. Well, I mean, it's definitely not easy to do steer by wire, but he forgot the first place award. Well, for autonomous driving, well, for sure. Well, I will be in a pit. I will be bumping into something. Well, this is something that we know, but autonomous driving is definitely different. And one other reminder that I'd like to share with you: the fifth finalist, Serdar Sultanoğlu was his name. The fourth finalist was Çağatay Karademir. The third, Bekir Bostancı. Second place, Erhan Demircioğlu. And the first place was Can Acar. He won the first place award. So at 2 o'clock, we'll be talking about the fight against counterfeit products. We'll have different panelists with us in this e-mobility section. And at 3 o'clock, Berkan Bayram will be talking about electromobility and trends in Turkey and around the world. So an automotive journalist will be with him, Okan Altan, a great friend of mine. So I'll talk about tomorrow's agenda. So tomorrow we'll be talking about mobility on smart cities, and we'll also talk about the world of tomorrow and whether we're ready for it. It'll be by Castrol, and we'll talk about mass production and domestic electric car. It'll be hosted by Sertal Tanta. This is the end of today's session. See you at 2 o'clock on the panel called Battle Against Counterfeit Products.
saat 14'te. 7. salonda e-mobilite alanında sahte ürünlerle mücadele sempozyumumuz vardır. Ziya Özalp, Emirhan Silahdaroğlu ve avukat Barış Kalaycı bizlerle birlikte olacak. Saat 14 ile 14.40 arasında. Sim, sim. Değerli konuklarımız, değerli misafirlerimiz.
Esteemed participants, welcome to the e-mobility hall of Automechanika Istanbul. We will be talking about the fight against counterfeit products soon. Well, we're not only talking about the automotive industry here, well, we definitely have counterfeit products in our lives. And the moment we realize it, it comes as a hit, it comes as a shock. So we all know how bad we can feel after realizing that. Having said that, I'd like to give the floor to Ziya Özalp. So we were together in the morning. Welcome again. Emirhan Silahdaroğlu is our next panelist. Thank you. Welcome. And to talk about such a heavy subject, we needed an attorney. Barış Kalaycı is with us. Welcome. And allow me to have my spot here. So counterfeit products and the fight against counterfeit products, we'll talk about it. And there are a lot of topics that we can address under this particular theme. We probably have all witnessed counterfeit products in our lives. Well, are you one of us, people who have realized that their products are counterfeit and they've basically wasted money on nothing? Well, maybe our participants are a bit lucky, but not everybody is. So I'll give the floor to you. Let's start with Emirhan. Well, if you allow me, let me begin. Well, first, well, thank all the participants for taking the time to take part in this panel. We represent OSS Association, so we are members of the brand working group. I'm a member of this group, and we'll talk about some of the activities that we conduct to fight against counterfeit products. Well, we'll share information that we believe is quite important. The brand working group, aptly named, I don't know if you understand what it stands for, but what it means is a message that we'd like to convey. It's about those players in the automotive industry. Our top priority is to work with our members and help them protect their own brands. And for this particular purpose, we develop projects. As we said at the outset, not the automotive is not the only industry that sees the counterfeit products. All the industries see that, and this is a significant problem. It may have to do with the location of Turkey, but this also has to do with opportunism, and it also has to do with the fact that there is no value for human effort. So this is for sure related with people, with certain people making money for via unlawful manner, via unlawful means. But it is not only monetary terms. This also risks people's lives, and people who are involved in this, they don't really avoid it. They don't really try to prevent it. They're not even concerned with what they're doing. And in the past years, this has been a growing and rising trend. So as I sum up my remarks, I'd like to give the floor to the panelists, and it's going to be a conversation rather than a Q&A format. Ziya Özalp is the chairperson of our association. I'd like to ask a question to you. Well, some people here are the members of our association, but some of them aren't. Would you like to describe your association briefly? Well, automotive after sales products and services association was established in 1995. It is now operational since years. 119 members are distributors and 91 are manufacturers. We address a market of 5 billion USD. In monetary terms and in terms of quantity, this is a significant market. And this market, well, we are well in us today, but this market is home to significant players. And the conversation that we are about to have today, probably we may have a chance to give the floor to participants, because there are people who are victimized by counterfeit products. I can see some of them on the front seats. There are people who gave us courage in the meantime. So I'd like to talk very briefly. Maybe I'll try my best to support you a little bit. The position that we've attained today, there is nothing that we cannot do looking at the position. And well, it's there is this ownership in the industry, distributors and manufacturers, their problems, we can address them. And as I said in the morning, there are two important topics that we focus on at the moment. One of them is, as I mentioned, is the fight against counterfeit products, or the endeavors related with the protection of the brand. And another topic is our collaboration with Kogidar. It's an OSS project, and this is about female workforce participation and wider participation by women. And we believe that this is part of the solution, because where there is a women's presence, everything becomes more transparent and more measurable. So these two projects are conducted at the moment, and we would like to launch these two projects at the moment. And in the coming period, in the next session, in the next round, I'll talk about these projects in further detail. But there was this question about whether people have seen counterfeit products, or whether they've actually suffered the fact that they had counterfeit products in their hands. Well, we're in such an industry that it is impossible for us to distinguish between true products and real products and counterfeit products. So we probably suffered it, but we probably don't even know it. So have a great panel ahead. I was going to make the same comment. Persons who've never encountered it, maybe this is what we need to say. In this case, you've seen a very well-made counterfeit product, and this is how we can understand how fraudsters did their job very well. So we need to be more agile, and we need to understand it very well. Yes, maybe this is what we need to do. We understand it. So the brand working group and the association, the products, the counterfeit products that we have in the industry and its distribution in the market, we have projects and activities related with this. But what's even more important is that you all have your strengths, and in this regard, we'd like to hear from you, your opinion, your perspective. We'd like to hear from you at the end of our panel. And if you allow me, I'll turn to Barış Kalaycı. He is a collaborator that we work with as we develop these projects. He's the representative of the law firm that we work with. Would you please introduce your company? Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished participants. Gulen Partners Law Firm is a company that I work at. 150 employees we have. We are located in 3 different cities, provinces. And personally, I am the head of the teams in charge of the fight against counterfeit products. I think it's going to be our 25th year next year, and to date, I'm talking about 23 or 24 years, we were like doing it as an additional task. But now that we have more counterfeit products, this has become a problem that has multiplied itself in size. So the brand owners provided us with training, and one thing that we'd like to underline is the danger that we see here. And Automechanika is a platform where we can talk about counterfeit products. Any counterfeit product can lead to an accident. For now that we have it, this actually goes beyond certain types of victimhoods. This is something that can harm people. And brand owners and consumers definitely see this impact of that. But there are people who are not even aware of this, that they're using the product, but they don't even know the consequences of that. We have hundreds and hundreds of people that we know, but we don't know it. In this regard, we are a member of OSS, and with the legal steps that we take, we would like to support this working group. And we've started our efforts 6 months ago. So I'll talk about it in the coming rounds.
As far as I've understood, you are working at Gulen Partners, attorneys at law, and you have experience in other sectors in the fight against counterfeit products. So let me ask you the final question. First, talked about the person what are the sanctions for counterfeiters? What kind of penalties, punishment do they awaits them? Well, legally speaking, I can't say much, but I can talk about a 20-year perspective. First, the lawmaker, they talked about selling and supplying, to sell, producing, and the verbs that have been used, and they were confused about the terms, but with the industrial property rights law passed 5 years ago, it became clearer. Of course, we have criminal procedure code and criminal codes, and producing, selling, holding for commercial purposes, even transport for commercial purposes is punishable between 1 to 3 years imprisonment, and they talk about 20,000 TL fine, which is 100 TL per day at it, so can go up to 2 million TL. So we have fines and punishment, imprisonment. Of course, due to the approach of judges and public prosecutor, you may not get results each time, but the law, I mean, it looks in a different way at retail, for example. The more it benefits from this business, the higher the punishment is, the stricter the punishment is. So you talked about criminal sanctions. At what point do they apply to producers and sellers, vendors, to all of them? I mean, I have tried to summarize the penal code. It's about those who produce, selling, supply for production purposes, who hold those or store those for commercial purposes, transport those, export those. So all these verbs are being used. It's not right around the corner at the retail shop. It's any manufacturer or wholesaler. I mean, everyone walking this hall can commit this crime, technically speaking. But as Yabe said, how do you? We don't know how to differentiate the fake from the real one. The lawmaker says you have to know. You're obliged to know. You are engaging in commercial activities, so you have to know. You have been trading in those for 20 years. You can't say I didn't know it was fake. That's not a defense position. So, of course, it's not an excuse to not knowing the law, but you can't defend yourself in such a manner. And then life imprisonment, I said, or imprisonment, excuse me. Um, well, the destruction of confiscated goods is also mentioned, and then confiscating tools and equipment that are used for manufacturing is also part of it. Let's say that they are protective clause, like uh, people may get rid of being imprisoned, but it's exceptional. As a practitioner of the last 20, 25 years, that has never been the case. If well, you should not start doing it at all, because once you start engaging in such activities, and you may not never get out of it once you're in. So we have met such people. Let's say they have huge storage facilities or container full of it. If it were their own brands, I mean, there were people who could create brands in Turkey just to cut the corner and make a little bit more money. They produce counterfeits or in counterfeit products. Let's touch upon those people. We have a brand working group. Our previous name was Anti-Counterfeit Products Group. We wanted to enrich it. We have a globe. We wanted to show that we have a global and comprehensive approach, and also to convince ourselves that we are such. We are able to do it in a global manner. So we have enriched the scope of work of the working group, which is called the brand working group now. So. And well, the pandemic arrived. We continued to work it from home. If we didn't have the chance to pay visits in the last period, but um, with the office of Barış Bey and under their control, based on the intelligence that they have gathered so far, we have made progress, nice progress. Well, before that, I mean, it's not a this doesn't have a history of 3 to 5 years in our industry, and the older, the most senior of you will know. They had always been counterfeit products in our industry. In the last 2 years, or starting even before that, first what we did was go to industrialists, vendors, and masters, and give them a message. We showed a promotional video. We showed them and sent them the promotional video, and it was also shown in the social media. Our motto was, "With a counterfeit don't dirty your hands with a fake part." Uh, the automotive suppliers and spare parts suppliers, they know. I mean, when they go to the customers, they want to touch the greasy product, um, and they are the people who assumed all the troubles for us. So dirtying one's hands, well, should be something worthwhile, and fairness was demanded. So don't dirty your hands with fake spare parts was the slogan that we used in that video and in this campaign. And despite the pandemic, although people were at home during the pandemic, but under the leadership of Barış Bey, some OSS members or non-OSS members, they were represented in this work. We monitored counterfeit products and their manufacturers. And let's hear about the balance sheet, or what has happened in the last year or two. Yes, as of July 2020, our lawyers started to work. We're still working from home, in fact, but we went to Judicial Palace, and then we had raids with the police, more and more of those, in fact. And there we had clients that are non-OSS members, and we have done many things for them. But the last 6 months, we have been collaborating with a task force in OSS, and we have had many raids. As far as I remember, 7 to 8. There were 7 to 8 raids in the scope. I mean, at various addresses. 150, 200,000 counterfeit products were seized in those raids, and the first person that we rated and the last person that we rated were the same. I mean, that was their profession. They didn't make money. This is my profession. Illegal, making illegal money. Yes, it's ironic. Yes, that's the case. I mean, so they were manufacturers, storage facilities. They were moved, and then we found them again, and rated them again. So then they were engaging in commercial activities of counterfeit products, and the outcome, the result was deterrent, actually. Uh, let's say they have rented the space underneath a mosque to store their counterfeit products. The last 5 to 6 raids, I think 150,000 or 250,000 various counterfeit products of various brands were seized, and we did that under OSS. We were not only representing our own clients, we were representing also other holders of rights, other brand owners, because it is a collaborative effort. So the goal was to, well, to make them feel the heaviness, the seriousness of this issue. When we rate something, when we detect something, we'll take everything away. 150,000 or 250,000, I said. I mean, we not only go to manufacturing sites. There are retail shops that we rated, or intermediaries, wholesalers, and others that are involved. So it's not easy to hold these raids. You can't issue search warrants for each case. It took place after very serious legal debates. The injunctions were based on private law, and then we confiscated, we executed those products. I mean, we wanted to obtain a result, a concrete result. So Tony's got tired at the end, but it bore fruit. Thank you very much for all your efforts. We were following your moves, and I have an extra question. You said 150 and 200,000. It looks like, or it seems like a large volume, but it's like a teardrop or a drop in the ocean, let's say. What do you see? What do you say? Is it just a drop in the ocean? I mean, who are we faced against? I mean, just to talk about size, the size or the volume of the business, the illegal business, the percentage in the overall trade, it's nothing actually. But Ziabe said the market is worth $5 billion. Maybe it's a piece of sand in a desert, but we want it to be corrected. I mean, so that people don't engage in illegal activities, but do ordinary trade. I mean, they do it as a profession, it's an occupation, and they have it easy. And other people, we want to prevent from other people doing it. They feel forced to do it because, I mean, and maybe some people have the idea of engaging in illegal trades. We want to prevent it. And sometimes they have to support them, those professionals, legal professionals who are moved out of the system, and we want everyone to engage in legal trade activities in a fair trade. at the end of the day. So let's talk about what we want to do and what we're going to do. Barış Bey, looking back, I mean, the biggest source in those raids is intelligence provided by the market and or reports to the police, of course, and our members, they demanded or they reported the, these to the police, and in order to manage those reports one-handedly or a WhatsApp, we decided to set up a WhatsApp line, a report line. We had announced this before to our members. All reports pertaining to our industry, they will be delivered to a hotline, to one. There will be a single call center for to be able to control the entire process. I'd like to leave the floor to President Chairman Ziya Bey now. Would you like to add something to these s- rates, the past rates, or about the WhatsApp report line that has been established for our members to report counterfeit products and services? So um, this problem stems from the generation before your generation. So to what extent can we bring about improvements here and correct the situation? Well, I'm representing the second generation. I've been in this industry for 21 years, and the company that I work for has a 40th history. And I've been hearing stories at home about counterfeit products, and we we people I know that I hear, we know each other. We know we can solve this issue also with everyone's support. And I mean, there are people who are here who are senior, more senior than me, who have been spent great efforts for the industry, and they have been victimized on many occasions by counterfeiting and imitated products. Sometimes they get a patent. I mean, we're not fighting against counterfeit. They get the rights of names, although patents, they get try to get patents. And we have seen examples, many examples of those. The solution, I mean, neither the automobile user or nor others, they, I mean, should know about what has been going on before they bought the car. We can solve it until it gets to the users. I mean, we are manufacturer suppliers. We can stop them in these stages, and then retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, and intermediaries, whoever is engaged in this illegal activity, they will be fought by us in a serious manner. And in this morning, we have had one of an international company, Renault, made a promise. The person heading Hakando, the after sales, the entire after sales of Renault. I talked to him, and he said Renault is engaged in a very strict legal battle against it, and they think a concerted action is required, and they will fully support our efforts. And unfortunately, we are not only fighting against counterfeit products in Turkey, in Europe, we can see that many of our products don't reach Europe because like Italy, France, and Central Europe, all these counterfeit products are being transported there. We know that some products, they stay at the border. They are OIP President Baranchelik. I asked him for support. He said he had 11,000 exporters with whom he would communicate the recent developments and talk to them. Well, anti-counterfeiting has many aspects. Police reporting to the police is one such aspect. Of course, the origin of the report is being investigated, and Barış Bey will give you information, I'm sure, about those. But the source of intelligence, well, it's like a conscientious kind of matter, because you play with the health of people next to unfair income generation. Well, I can't say I didn't know about it. I had no idea. I did investigate the source where I bought it from. I did investigate, but I was not sure. How should I know? Such excuses are no longer valid. They don't mean anything anymore. As OSS association, we will be more concrete and clear when it comes to this fight in your working group. As 8 years ago, as I became member of OSS, we tried to do something, but distributors and manufacturers couldn't join forces. Now, you see the foremost manufacturers and distributors, they're more determined now to join forces, and because it goes beyond the benefit is beyond competition. um, there are many rules, regulation, laws, and it's difficult to talk as manufacturers, but it's about sometimes they risk themselves and their companies in the fight against counterfeiting. Thank you very much. And this will try to alleviate their concerns as soon as possible, because there are very few people who are engaged in this illegal act. They're just, let's say, a few dozen or 1 dozen, or because well, we'll try to eradicate the root. And about the call the hotline to report those crimes, I would like to ask our stakeholders who are here, who are advertising it in this hall, to just use it and report these crimes. Well, yes, you're right. I mean, every company, it, I'm sure, has fought already against counterfeiting individually by themselves. They try to identify the cases when it comes to the products they're representing, etc. But the point reached is, as was mentioned by Ziabe very eloquently, automotive suppliers, spare parts, or aftermarket. For the first time, all these three forces, I mean the manufacturers, the distributors, and the vendors, everyone uh, realizes the need that they need to come together to fight against it. And this is competition is not does not take place over the product itself, based on the qualifications and functions and properties of the competition should be over the or only over the qualification of the product. Fair trade, which is very important outside abroad, it's not relevant to your brand. It's all relevant to all brands. And as you said, we have many people that we know abroad. When they receive an offer from a good in Turkey, when they request an offer, they want information about the company, and they're asking us, this company offered me this product, is it counterfeit or not? I get such emails. No one asks me anymore, is it a high quality product, a qualified product, or well, so as you said, I mean, it has an impact on abroad, on other countries, and local manufacturers. They're blamed in a way. I mean, Turkish products are not good. Maybe and the Turkish products are unreliable. That's the image that people are starting to have. You should have done the same, the opposite. I mean, our industry should have gathered, should have joined forces many years ago, and local manufacturers and producers. Uh, Including the imported goods that their own competition, all brand representatives, national, international, in Turkey, should be part of this fight. If they're not part of this fight, it will have repercussions for them as well one day at the end of the day. So yes, I mean, any parts that go out of Turkey, I mean, they're being kept waiting, regardless of their being counterfeit or not. I think in South Italy, it's not easy to export to south of Italy. It harms a local brands, and we've been hearing about these cases from many places because it's our mistake. I mean, it's not something bad that they're doing against us. It's not because of their malintention. It's because it is our fault. Well, okay. We talk about automotive after sales, and we are serving our automotive after sales market, and be- and that's why I mean. We are encountering people who are selling these counterfeit products, not those who are manufacturing those maybe, but we set up this WhatsApp hotline to report this crime and based on a demand of our members. But we're working with attorneys, and it was not possible to do it without attorneys or any because we are not detectives and no investigators, and we've seen that. I mean, all companies they have one way or the other fought against it, but because we were alone, we couldn't reach any results.
WhatsApp hattı
We announced our WhatsApp hotline. How will it really work, and how will you monitor the reports? The entire process. Well, I'll be glad if you can share this entire process. Yes, I was talking about it 6 months ago. We've started it, and the WhatsApp whistleblowing line opens up new opportunities for us. So we've basically chose WhatsApp over a hotline because everybody uses social media, and they'll be easily able to share any images that they would like to convey. And under the working group, we also have interaction with the main research team. So they will be addressing the calls, they will analyze the reports, and investigations will be conducted. And at the end, raids will be conducted. So this is the general process. So when it comes to the operating of it, there will be some problems. But people sometimes tend to or intend to report, but they have concerns as to whether it will be discovered in the future. But this time I'd like you to rest assured that there is this privacy rule between an attorney and the person who is working with the attorney. So laws actually prohibit it. So any investigation law does not really exist. So the clients work as assistants to attorneys. So the same principles of law and ethical rules apply to them as well. Any report to be conveyed, or people who are involved in the raid, or even other stakeholders, the fact that they are notified of any incident. So no information will be conveyed or will be disclosed whatsoever. I wanted you to rest assured. But one thing I'd like to underscore, there is this feeling with our society that people don't really want to whistleblow things, and it is sometimes is portrayed as a goodwill, as a good intention, but this is something that goes beyond the borders of Turkey. So we, for example, file applications at the customs. Products from China, they're in the red zone, they're opened, they're reviewed. I know that some products even wait for 2 weeks, and the same thing happens to us at the moment. So I believe that those products that are kept waiting at the customs are also important. The intensity of trade, and even there is this pressure of China. So people are so ambitious that they are still producing these products within Turkey. So they are remaining in such a spot that they keep on doing it. So I really find it quite weak. And one thing that I'd like to demand you is that we're all seeing the harms of it. So please report any incident that you see. Well, everybody has a detective in themselves. So it was we basically once held a meeting with a client, and they said, well, why don't you have information about that? And a sender, for example, a seller had to follow up a truck until Bursa. So he was so motivated. But one thing we'd like to demand is as follows: critical information that we need, something that we cannot really find out by even looking at the market. Please give us this information, disclose this piece of information to us, because whenever there is time, we may have meetings with the wholesalers or producers or other stakeholders, but everybody is involved in this in order to maintain their own interests and protect their own interests. I said it at the beginning, actually. I saw it by looking at WhatsApp, and there are certain people who will be disappointed by it. Many calls are incoming at the moment. Yes, this was something I'd like to ask, because this is an anonymous line, and there will not be any information that will be disclosed as to whom this information is being conveyed by. So it also is, it has to do with the law on the protection of personal data as well, the reports provided to you, and the levels of which we can take it seriously. Would you like to talk about the ratios of that a little bit? So the reports provided to us via general means and channels like those provided by clients, well, tens of reports we receive. You probably anticipate the fact that the people that we address, they're also calling us. Which brands are we going to look into? So even this may be considered a record number. So we're not only looking into automotive spare parts, we're looking into textiles, clothing, apparel sector, pharmaceuticals. So we're dealing with many sectors here, and you may very well know that there will be different stakeholders who are harmed or who see the detrimental impact of that. So it doesn't matter which part of it you're involved in. You may be a retailer, wholesaler, manufacturer. It doesn't matter. It's thanks to the initiative of OSS that this will be an overall benefit for everybody. So the initial data reveals that too. So it will be a challenge for us, that's for sure, especially after the launch of this particular hotline. There will be incoming calls and there will be incoming reports. So which one of them should we prioritize, according to what should we take a step, etc. So the more information we have on a specific subject matter, for example, it is being sold on this website, this is something that we accept as well, but maybe a little bit further detail about that. Anything that you have at hand, it will be more beneficial for each and every one of us. You know it better that this is like a chain effect. So at the end of the day, we're speaking about a website, but why don't we find the other end of this particular line or continuum? So this is what we're expecting to see from you. Thank you very much. I think I think I'm going to wrap it up. But before that, I'd like to provide info about the following stages. So now that we've launched this WhatsApp line, we need to underline that, and this will be a period where we actually emphasize that over and over. So the fact that we're fighting against counterfeit products, this is why we will conduct certain PR activities in collaboration with expert companies. We will do that in the coming periods. We will be working together with the different industries in Turkey. We will be promoting our whistleblowing line. We will hand in the brochures and ads of our WhatsApp line. So we will have informatory activities. So the last section that we have anyone who'd like to ask a question about any stage of our activities, whistleblowing line, how it'll run, and what should be done, or any suggestions. You have the floor, sir. But do we have a microphone? Your name and your company. Erkin Biden, Turkey aftermarket representative. Patent violations, counterfeit products, all the activities you conduct, I find it very valuable. PR activities conducted, the fact that you have it, it's going to be much more beneficial. I'm suggesting that you focus on that area, making sure that those people who don't hear about it are informed of what you're doing and your efforts. I had previous efforts and activities at my companies, and currently I can find easily patent violations. But Frankfurt Automechanika, for example, they can spot it instantly. They can actually issue letters. There is a specific court dealing with that. Instant response. Yes, you can actually have the component removed, and they even make the courts deliver verdicts even in the mornings. Well, yes, I think you can reach that level in the coming periods too. Well, thank you very much. I find it very valuable, and we'll be providing our support. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we agree with you too. The fact that it will be promoted, it is more important than actually coming up with this idea. Currently, only certain circles and groups, those who follow us, our members, and those who see that on social media, are aware of our activities, our recognition, visibility, and actually credibility. Whether or not we will attain any result with it, those people there are not who are not really sure of what we can achieve. So this is something that we will look into. And one other thing that we would like to share, I don't really think that we focus on production. Well, but this also has the final sellers. Everybody is actually involved in this. And even within OSS, if there are any companies like that, maybe first we need to warn them. I think it is clear what kind of an opinion we have here. And OSS members want to sell any counterfeit, and they won't have any dealings with counterfeit sellers. And this goes back to 2 years ago. And we would like to add this particular item. And if we have any members who is involved in this kind of a transaction, they actually lose their right to membership, and they also lose their. We are going to be in this fight all together with the members. There are many things to be done on the legal side of it, but the conscientious and the moral side of it, they're quite important too. Many people are working in this, so they're basically providing employment. They're making investments, they're taking part in exhibitions, but the fact that a product is being imitated, it's a counterfeit is being created, it has a huge impact, a detrimental effect on everybody. So the entire board is very sensitive. We don't want anybody to be harmed, to be hurt, but I've been talking about it, and we never saw any company who's grown and expanded, who's grown their assets by selling counterfeit. So we know where their final destination is headed. So among OSS members, if there is anybody who is attempting at it, or anybody who is among OIB members who is attempting at that, in this case, we would like to remove their membership. Well, you're nearby. I'll give the floor to you, and then the person behind you. How many minutes do we have? Well, in this case, let's get the questions first. Osam Turkey country manager Can Sürücü is my name, and well, intensively we're fighting against counterfeit. In the past 6 months, 60,000 products we found them, and we even conducted a collective raid on Istanbul uh, bus station. And the thing is, retailers are doing it on purpose. Are you going to make sure that your activities or the results of your activities are going to do you think that you're going to announce that, because it's going to have a deterring impact, and this should also be something that needs to be disseminated among end users. This is how you can collect further complaints. Well, for sure, we will disclose this information, but this court and the processes with the courts should be completed first until a verdict is delivered. Under a verdict is delivered, we can't really disclose anything, and we can't really state anything. Otherwise, it will be a crime. But we will definitely announce it. Don't worry about it at all. Süleyman Beyaz is my name. My question is for Barış Bey. So, selling products on various websites, and there are people who are basically exposed, uh, known to sell counterfeit products. It may have to do with the proxy processes, and they basically establish another enterprise to continue selling their counterfeit products. Do you think you can collaborate with lawmakers, because overseas they what kind of activities are conducted overseas, and what can we do in Turkey to deal with that? So, well, opening up a new shop in the name of another person. Well, one thing that I can say about the websites of the clients is that in addition to our own activities, Amazon and other activities. So shall we remove this website, or shall we take an action until you remove your website? So this is the stage that we've attained already. So people really don't want these kinds of products to be sold on their websites. So things that are conducted overseas are similar to what we do in Turkey. But once you spot a person, you can't easily seize them, because if this has become a profession for them, we need to make it our profession to follow them and to catch them, so that they can give up on what they do. So you can seize a person, spot a person for third time or for the fourth time, but if this person is still involved in this kind of dealing, I don't really think that is probable. But maybe it will be repetitive somehow. But the only thing that we can do is to go on. And the two people have mics, but unfortunately our host, are we being evacuated right now? Yeah, this is all, but we're here though. Well, why don't we really go downstairs? If you allow us, we can reply your questions personally. Thank you very much again for taking the time, and it was thanks to you, and it's going to be thanks to your support that we will be successful. In the meantime, before you leave the stage, we have Shields Emirhan Silahdaroğlu.
Ve Orçun İstanbulluoğlu'na bir plaketimiz var.
We have shields for our panelists.
Değerli misafirlerimiz, Automechanika'da e-mobilite alanında biraz
In the e-mobility section of Automechanika Academy exhibition, we will be hosting the new panel on the development of e-mobility in Turkey. Okan Altan and Berkan Bayram, they will have a conversation again with us here in this hall.
birazdan Berkan Bayram Bey ve Okan Altan sizlerle birlikte olacaklar. Onlar da hazırlık yapıyorlar.
Our panelists are getting ready. Okan Altan and Berkan Bayram. You're more than welcome. First, they need to be mic'd up.
Okan Bey mikrofonu takmışlar galiba.
I think Okan is mic'd up now.
Bu senin göstermesi bozuldu galiba.
Bozulmaz olur mu?
Nasıl görüyorsun böyle küçük?
Şu şey balık, oradaki kağıtlar yap onları, bir de şu kağıtlı çöp atarsanız çok sevinirim. O notlar onlar aslında düzgün gözüküyor. Su getirelim oraya, su koyalım. Su koydular, tamam, suyunuz da var. Ben size soracağım mı gideceğim?
Tamam, harikasın, süper abi.
Çünkü
Paran varsa Kuzey Marmara'dan kapattık buradan.
Kuzey Marmara'da kaç para?
Köprüyle birlikte 65 lira.
Hiçbir şey değil.
Abi kilometre bile yakıt harcıyorsun ama frene basmadan eve gideceksin.
Maltepe'ye nasıl gidiyorum? Maltepe'ye nasıl çıkıyorum?
Normal Kadıköy sapağından çıkıyorsun, sonra Tem'e bağlanıp gidiyorsun Maltepe'ye.
Tamam, Kuzey Maltepe'den.
Ümraniye'den bir bağlanıyorsun.
Tamamdır.
Ya aç Yandex'i.
Oradan bakalım ben. Kuzey Marmara Otoyolu'ndan. Kuzey Marmara Otoyolu. Lütfen. Şuradan anlat. Bunun işi kalmadı. Şunlar çöpler. Tamam, onlar için zaten önce ben onları önce vereceğim kendime. Ataköy'e gideceğim ben çünkü. Değerli konuklarımız, değerli misafirlerimiz, saat 16:15'te
Berkan Bayram from Tehat and Okan Altan will talk about the evolution of e-mobility in Turkey and around the world. Okan will also talk about the testing results of electric models.
otomobillere inananlar ve onlara heyecanlı
Those who believe in the potential of electric cars and to believe in the future of that, who are excited about the future of that.
Tamam. Tamamdır. Süper. Okan Altan'ın ismi yok burada. Tamam. Hiç sıkıntı yok. Tamamdır. İsmi yoksa tamam, sıkıntı yok. Sular bedavadan alabilirsiniz. Bir 2-3 dakika daha bekleyelim. Ondan sonra açılışı yapacağım. Değerli misafirlerimiz, değerli konuklarımız, 7. salon e-mobilite alanında
Berkan Bayram from Tehat will talk about e-mobility in Turkey.
Türkiye'nin duayen otomobil gazetecisi
Automotive journalist of Turkey, Okan Altan, will also talk about the testing results of the electric cars in Turkey, brands given to us, the values given to us by the brands, and what about the distances covered by the brands or reported by the brands, to what extent it is correct?
Good morning. When we will have old cars together.
Yes.
Special place. Okay, maybe with that angle, with 45 degrees
Yes.
angle.
Yes.
It
is a perfect angle to fly.
I know.
...20. yılında 14. kez düzenlenen Automechanika bu sene Automechanika İstanbul Plus olarak yapılıyor ve
Automechanika Istanbul Plus is the name of this year's exhibition. Berkan Bayram and Okan Altan will be with us. And they'll talk about e-mobility trends in Turkey and around the world. They'll talk about the autonomous systems, where they're headed. We'll talk about that.
başlayalım. Evet değerli misafirlerimiz, değerli konuklarımız, bugünün 7. salonda e-mobilite alanındaki
This is the latest event or the latest talk of this e-mobility hall. Welcome. First of all, we have shields. First, we'll present the shields so that it'll motivate you and you'll speak with more eagerness. You're the chairperson of TEHAT. Berkan Baydan, you have the floor. He'll talk about the e-mobility trends in Turkey and around the world, and we have this professional automotive journalist of Turkey, and he'll talk about the real ranges of electric cars. And if we have any time left, by the way, but I don't think it'll be the case, but even if we have time, ask Okan Altan about the industry. He has immense experience, and make sure that we will make the most of Okan Altan, Berkan Bayram and Okan Altan. Thank you. Welcome, welcome everybody. This is the 14th Automechanika Fair, organized in the past 20 years, and we've been in this fair for the past years. Electromobility is our field. This is part of a large ecosystem, actually, because even if we're talking about automotive today, in the background are many things that we need to consider that bring about question marks and that pertain to the development of technology. There are significant subject matters. Technology is changing, trends are changing at the moment, and automotive is going through a huge transformation at the moment. And in the face of such a transformation, unless you position yourselves properly, you will definitely be stranded. And I'll tell this very simply. The sales figures for electric cars, if it goes on like that, which components of that are you representing? Because if you're talking about internal combustion cars, well, 2,000 moving parts are in this, and electric cars don't have it. Even conventional engine motors, for example, or the exhaust pipe or the components in that entire line, this actually goes up to 2,000 components. And imagine that an electric car doesn't really contain that. And we're basically moving towards this particular future. I'm saying imagine, but many countries actually experience that, especially in Europe. Majority of the Scandinavian countries, so many of them have completed their shift to electric cars. And automotive supply industry, Automechanika, is one of the strongest exhibitions in this field. And most of the time, we focus or we manufacture the conventional structure. Well, 65% or 75% of our exports go to Europe, and automotive is one of the accelerators that we have. It's like a driving force for us. So when you take this out, you'll have significant problems. So these risks we're talking about, and so if you are to basically lag behind this transformation, you'll be doomed to fail. So around 2,000 components we talked about, and many automotive companies are based in Bursa. So these companies, how will they transform themselves? So we've been talking about it for the past 4 years, and Automechanika Academy has provided this chance to us to talk about it. So in our first edition, it was 2018, we had guests from the Netherlands. And as you know, electromobility is quite a trend in the Netherlands, Germany, the UK, Norway. By the way, it doesn't really make sense to not even talk about it. So, but this term doesn't mean anything. The batteries inside it, the charging stations, the technologies of that. So there are many peripheral equipment that we have. So these all are industries, separate industries that are rising at the moment. So we're going through a significant transformation at the moment. We probably don't realize it now, but this transformation will hear the footsteps of that louder, in a louder manner. So let's see what kind of a trend awaits us at the moment in 2011, from 2011 to 2021. Well, electric car sales, well, when we have a look at the figures of that, there are comparisons. The first mobile phone, when did the first million users have it? So for electric cars, 1 million figure was attained in 1 year, and this particular time frame was lowered to 8 months last year. So this is actually an exponential rise for every year. So these electric cars are becoming part of our lives. 844 electric cars were sold, for example, but in Europe, 1.4 million was sold in Europe. 1.3 million only in China was the sales figure attained in China. Last year, 7.5 million was the quantity of electric cars and the sector they represented. 100 million is the global market, but 10% is the share of it at the moment. That European states and governments have passed certain emissions decisions, or European states have also passed certain decisions related with the urban space. So these have had a significant impact on the evolution of this transformation. We're talking about 2030 at the moment. We're talking about the following years. So after a particular year, you can't even have the chance to be within a particular city. So, as people involved in this field, we need to also follow this. Okan Altan is my name. It's a great honor for me to talk about this subject matter. I grew up with the automotive magazines, and I am basically hosting a significant personality with me at the moment. And it is a great honor for me that he accepted my offer invitation, and he has a significant background in this field. The video that you see in the background, for example, so all these cars, he'll talk about the testing the drives of that, and he will talk about the ranges of that. So without further ado, well, I think it was the case, but I'm sorry for having spoken a bit much, but thank you very much for being here. And Okan Altan, you have the floor, sir.
Hello, can you hear me? Welcome. In fact, as an automotive journalist, being here at Automechanika full of engineers and talking to you, sharing information with you is quite challenging. I will not go into technical details, but I would like to talk from the point of view as a user, as a journalist, as a commentator, and on electric cars. To what extent does it make sense using electric cars, and what are the values attached to it? And as a follow-up to what you said, it's also pertaining to the essence of Automechanica. I'd like to say that number of production data is going up every year. 2050, I think, all cars will be electric. All brands at the latest 2050 will produce electric cars. But as we have written, 1.4 billion cars exist in the world. By 2050, if all automotive manufacturers start producing electric cars, they will have produced 120 million cars. 1.3 billion cars will be there, still there. Yes, I mean everyone is forecasting an electric vision. It's very people are very optimistic and trying to do their best. But we talk about 1.4 billion cars, which will emit exhaust gas, and so we have to clean them up first to reach all those goals. And you know the mathematics: 1.4 million and plus 120 million electric cars. I mean, there will be an exponential growth at the end of the day. But we have to think about the gas, the exhaust gas of conventional cars. Why is EU not supporting synthetic fuels but supporting electric cars? Question mark. So we should not forget those questions. By the way, we are at Automechanika today. I can't help but mentioning something. Supplier. I mean, we have suppliers. No brand is producing their own spare parts, excluding except for one or two brands, I think. Most of the brands here, they're serving automotive fully. And Luca De Meo, the CEO of Renault, I talked to him in an interview in the mid-pandemic period, and he also worked for Fiat. He's a known person from Fiat as well. So he was also presiding over Seat, and he was the global marketing director of Audi. He has has a IQ higher than 200. He said that automotive supplier has to change, and I mean, with the electric cars, they will transform. No, not everyone wants to change, he said. So what will happen then? Those who won't change, they will disappear. Very interesting. Of course, this will not happen in 10, 20 years. It will happen after 2050, but the old generation cars and spare part producers, if you don't invest in hydrogen or a fuel cell, and can't become suppliers of those, they will not be there in the future. An important footnote. So I'll talk about electric cars now. This is from 3 years ago. It's a test. It's the first independent journalists testing the real range, the real distance these cars could go. WLTP, it was called NEDG. It's a lab test. This is LTP80. This is real life. Well, this is closer to real life in terms of we tested the real range of emission cars and electric cars. The brands, they were doing it, not independent organizations. So brands, they want to check the factory values and they want to show good values. That's maybe they show favoritism toward themselves or not. I mean, it's a closed space. Wind speed is close to zero. Professional drivers are being utilized. The maximum range distance these cars could go were identified. Very nice, but the same goes for combustion engines. And with 3.7 up per 100 kilometer diesel, but it is 9 liters. Mainly usually because normal users, they drive other than differently than professional drivers. So 3 years ago we have selected 12 cars: a Tesla, Golf, electric, and Jaguar are based, and there were many options. This is our driving style. 12 journalists, they changed cars every 25 kilometers, so everyone drove different cars. I mean, I may push the gas more than the German journalist, for example. He may be more cautious. He may treat the electric car better than me, etc. So we changed cars. Drivers, the cars changed drivers to identify the real distance they could go. This is the first test. We made a mistake. They departed at the same time. Once the range was 220 and 500 kilometers was the one of Tesla, so they disembarked in the same time, and Tesla didn't finish on day 2, on day 3, etc. So uh, they went on the following days. So 2 weeks ago we did another test by realizing our mistakes, of course. But let's talk about test results of 3 years ago. So you have real users, uh, and Ayşe and Uncle Ahmed. So AC open, lights open, music system open is on, and using ramps, and harshly treat the vehicle on ramps by pushing on the gas pedal, and then exceeding the speed limits on motorway without economizing. So we try to identify the real range. I want to talk about the test results, and then I will go talk about the most recent tests. The WLTP data are not realistic as per our test results. So let's go one by one. BMW DLP value shows that it's 225. NEDG based on previous cycle, it's 300 kilometers. But we drove it, it was 237.5 kilometers. WLT data were exceeded very, very stunningly. And another example, this is Nissan Leaf, 285 based on WLTP, 378 kilometer NEDG maximum range. Our distance millage is 220 kilometers. So Barcelona, Spain, maybe in mountainous terrain, and we drove them for 200 kilometers. This is the last day, by the way. I'm talking about the last day. So Barcelona Formula One pists were used, test driving pists were used, and battery was almost killed. We saw the signal lamp, and so this the next in the paddock parking spot next to this range, there are chargers for Formula One. So these are not these are real charge stations for Formula One cars, and we have the killing the battery around it. So killed the battery, and then uh, they ran on empty close to the charging station. And this is all based on this procedure. The Nissan Leaf uh, lacked 60 kilometers and 150 kilometers based on NEDG data. So um, they missed the point or missed the mileage they had declared. And Tesla, we liked Tesla a lot. Everyone is admiring Model S, 100D. WLTP says 361, NEDG says 632 kilometers. Berkan, it finished at kilometer 433. The battery was killed. So, well, um, so factory data are not realistic. You have to once you have your own driving style, and you have to calculate how many kilometers you will make, and you have to go on a long journey based on this calculation. In Europe, even in wide cities, daily car usage kilometer is 63, 64 kilometers. Istanbul is longitudinal, so maybe up to 70, 63 to 70 kilometers. But their cities, they're round, like have a circular form, and daily car usage mileage is 37, 38 kilometers. Very interesting. So the law. Let's give an example. Dacia Duster with the lowest battery, 215 or 212 kilometers is the mileage. It can last up to 1 week. So the range is short. You don't need it. No, this is what should be actually. It is enough because the lighter it is, the smaller the batteries, uh, the sweet, the sufficient is or the battery and the mileage. So let's show the pictures. I will I'll show the other video at the end of the conversation. Let's see the pictures. Okay. Hürriyet newspaper, Auto Show, Automotive magazine, Berkay knows they published all this data, the real range, real mileage tests. And these are 15 cars. This is the newest test. Mercedes EQS and Tesla is not in the group, and or Lucid Air, crazy automobile, is not here. So this is tax free. These are not non-incentivized cars. 32,000 euro is their value, and the most affordable, accessible one for Europe, you know, is this. But the most accessible or affordable one cars have been selected for real mileage tests. ID Cupra Born. Well, these are Cupra Born is my favorite. I like it a lot. It's a nice car. And Mocha, electric Mocha. It arrived to Turkey. Renault Zoe. It is also sold in Turkey. Opel Corsa Electric was one of the other cars. Peugeot 208 electric, Citroen C4 electric, which will also come to Turkey soon. Dacia Duster or Spring, not Duster, Spring, and Kia electric, 100% electric. Honda E and Fiat 500 electric. ID5, yes, no, ID5 is not in the group. We have ID3. ID Coupe Mazda X5, so legendary. So MX5, in terms of its design, MX5, it's excellent. And the indicators, I mean, they're not, they're like analog indicators. You're not jumping time, you're just doing electric, and the door can be half opened, etc. But it has a short mileage, but it is enough in the city. If you're going to use it in the city, it's enough. Mazda X5 may be too big for Turkey in the city, but that's another subject. From Istanbul to Izmir, Mazda MX-3 it will take a long time to travel this distance. Fiat 500 electric was pleasant. Honda electric, you know that. But Cupra Born and ID3 is technically similar or the same, but the design details inside and the exterior, it's like makes you excited. And we had made a mistake, as I mentioned. Uh, all the mileage was reduced to 200 kilometers first to compensate for the difference. So in Spain, in north of Barcelona, there is a place called Terrassa, big city, and circuitors in the center, in the headquarters of Circuito, they embarked on this journey, 250 kilometers, and then they were zeroed. They were turning around the premises of the factory. The battery was killed, but it is full of charging stations. So we pushed it to the closest charging station at the end when the battery was empty. We are for the approval of the verifier. Next month, I think they will be verified. Counterfeit website will also publish the test results. Yes. Yes. So these photographs, WLT data has been compared against, and to see what happens with the data. But this is unofficial results now. I can say that once we reduced everything to 200 kilometers, it was a surprising car that still went on. Maybe it will come out in the official results also as the front runner. I don't know. ID3 Sprint, they died. The batteries that they died without any exceptions. Not to guess, but it turned and turned. It is a French car, okay? Let's say French. Well, it should be a surprise. But this is before the sunset. We finished, and there were cars that pushed to the to the chargers, and very interesting. What I felt was, I mean, I've been an automotive journalist for many years. I mean, I'm against diesel, against gas, gasoline anyway. But as I was reporting in 2005, 2006 in a column, I used to say diesel is polluting the environment more than gasoline. And a vendor of cars in Turkey almost filed a case against me. We can't say that. And then we've seen the scandal um, in the US. We were not talking names, right? I mean, we know the diesel scandal. I used to say diesel is polluting the environment. Well, now we've seen both pollute the environment the same way. So you're trying to push the cars that stopped. And well, what I felt was we departed early in the morning. I'm talking about 200 kilometers, the last 200 kilometers. And it's never finishing. We couldn't finish the batteries in those 200 kilometers. We tried to do our best to kill off the battery. I mean, we harshly used the car. We maltreated the car. We are not. We didn't accelerate. We just used it in a harsh way so that it can finish and then push the gas to the end, and then they'll accelerate and then the brake and then it repairs itself. And so how well we wanted it to be zero battery. So electric cars, they're part of our lives, and they are enough to be used in the city in terms of mileage, in terms of range. But WFT is tests are conducted in closed space plus RD. They're doing real life tests for electric cars and all vehicles. In fact, they're driving the cars properly during these tests. We've seen it. I mean, because they're speeding 110. They have 110 less kilometers kilometer range in the real environment. Think about people in the streets that are driving these cars, and I mean, this is real life driving. So there are many details that I could elaborate on, but I will not. I don't want to bore you much. But last but not least, I could say the following to wrap up: all brands, electric models seem to be expensive, right? Yes, right. But all brands, they have made the official announcement. Volkswagen Group, for example, by 2030 will have electric cars and combustion engines, and electric cars will have the same volume, and electric cars will start to get cheaper. Some brands are trying to do it even earlier than that. We know the old conventional engines and electric engines will become cheaper, and we will go to charger station supplies and to ask them to set up a charger on our street and beg them. So electric cars are here, never to leave. We talked about the gasoline and diesel engine lifetime is about to end, and we're talking about suppliers. They will make more money if they adapt themselves, because there won't be any space left in the market if you don't do it early on, or they have to do something else to support the electric vehicles. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I hope to see you again soon. Maybe you have seen
You may have realized that in the remarks of Okan, there were a few terms. Instead of gas pedal, he said like power pedal. Have you realized that? Because terms and terminology these are changing, especially for charging stations. For example, we have issued a new booklet of terminology: charging station, connector, power, voltage. These are the terms that we cover in the booklet. So the entire terminology will change, and we need to be ready for this. And before the questions, there's one thing that I forgot: automobiles. Well, there is the story. It charges in a few minutes, etc. So the charging station, as much as the power of it, it is important, but the speed of the car and its ability to charge itself, it's quite important too. Not every car can do that. We can actually do it with this. Well, is there a charging station for 150? Do we have anything for 200? No. In this case, let's not really pay for nothing. Well, but let me add one thing here. We were not even able to leave the city, leave Istanbul with an electric car. There were 15 charging stations. Well, even if we did to leave, we had to go to specific technical stations or fuel oil stations. But in each and every province of Turkey, there is a charging unit, and almost all of them are basically located there without the subsidies of state. So these are the units installed with the capitals of the companies. However, next year, as of 2022, on the sides of chargers, there will be significant regulations and laws. They'll be passed and introduced, and with the licenses, tenders will be carried out. So it's going to be a new industry. Without further ado, we can get questions, and then we can call it a day. Do we have any questions?
Merhabalar, Osman Kaya.
Osman Kaya is my name. Thank you very much. Okan had an important piece of experience for consumers. There are a few questions that I'd like to share with you. The first is for the final end user. As this person is using it, what should we pay attention to? Well, for it to use it more economically, we know there are tests that are carried out: new European driver cycle, real driving cycle, and WLTP. So these test results, how will it have an impact on everything, and to what extent will it have an impact, or can new things be launched? And for thermal cars, I did it. For internal combustion engines, I wanted to understand how much I could cover after I saw zero, and how can you do it with electric cars. Well, let me start with what we need to pay attention to. Well, the most important thing that needs to be paid attention to is the pace, the speed that you do with your cars, because the software, the engineering, everything is designed according to speed limits, optimum speed limits for inner city, for intercity limits. So the optimum levels are set. It is 90 average or magic 90 we have. If you drive at 90, you may be a bit fined, and I did actually got fined by 93 638 TL. So 90 km is important here. So when I have a look at it roughly, the optimum fuel consumption of all vehicles while driving at 90 km, we are talking about 15 kilowatts per hour. So this is optimum for 2021, 2022. So this is consumption per hour. This is optimum consumption, because this is what we have. We have 13, we have 16, etc. But this has completely to do with the engine, the battery, and the weight of the car. And there is this calculation. You may want to keep it in your mind. If you add 10 km, for example, on 90 km, if you have 100, your fuel consumption increases by 5 kilowatt per hour. I tested it. I wanted to see it for every km, and I tested it with iX3. I wanted to see if I could go with one full storage from Istanbul to Izmir, and it was 7 hours. It was long, and then I wanted to speed up a little bit, and I passed the speed limits. And when I drove at 105 km per hour, and when I went up to 110, and I saw 20, so it was 25 kilowatt per hour. It became 30 kilowatt per hour. So 130 to 35. So I saw even up to 58 kilowatt per hour. So this was the consumption that I saw. So it was 60 kilowatt per hour. So in a station, from a station to another station, you can't even go with 60 kilowatt per hour. You basically use all the batteries. So you start out with a full battery. By the way, we're going to get used to these kinds of terms, but so when you're driving at 190 km, the next charging stations, by the way, these are oxygens. It doesn't suffice. So for every km, 5 kilowatt is what you consume. So on average, 15 kilowatts. This is the optimum consumption. So there is an increase of 30%. So this is how you calculate it, and this is one thing that you need to pay attention to most. And maybe my colleague would like to agree with me, but you need to plan yourself accordingly. When to stop, where to have tea, where to eat, and where to park, and which kind of charging stations you will pick up, which one of them are ideal for you, because some of them would like to opt for the economy class. So this is why they need to pick their stations accordingly. Units, let's not call it dispensaries, by the way. So some of them are generous and they say, I'd like to stay there a bit short. 150 is what I would like to use. They say, I'm not naming any brands here, 120, 100 DC, well, ultra fast charging units. We have actually like that 350 is one that Porsche has or Tesla has one thing. If it comes to Turkey, it'll come to Turkey probably next year. Will it only be assembly? No, they will come with the chargers and units. Will it be assembled in Turkey? Well, if the assembly takes place here, what about Panasonic battery plant? Will it be established? Well, many details you shared in front of the press. Let's not reveal any inaccurate information. It was only a question. Okay, what do we pay attention to? Well, by the way, so electric cars, the batteries are, well, do batteries explode? They say, no, it's not the case. Well, if you have a look at it, it's not really the case. Well, careful use and the protection of the battery and the external aluminum. So you basically get a hit. There are chemicals inside. There are similar components in cars as well. So it's not really different from other cars. And well, when you see zero, so the car would like to be dragged to a charging station, and Steran C4 can only cover 3 km. And we got stranded on the motorway actually. So C4 is what you see there. Well, this is actually how we carry it to our center. So I'm completely consumed up. It was one of the former tests. E3S went to 38 km. After you saw 38 kilometers it covered. Honda A went for 24 km. 500E, I finished the top two. Well, it actually coincided with me. And the person who was driving it, well, got a little bit sick. The 500E 27 km was a very surprising figure. So it was the range. So they didn't stop. By the way, the French brands in PCA, Opels, I mean, and other cars, with the exclusion of Citroën, they were surprisingly successful with 25 kilometers. What happens is that when they got close to the red, they have the symbol of turtle, and they basically shut off anything that is unnecessary. So you are consuming me, it says. So when it starts riding below zero, it doesn't really operate the radio, the the lights run at a very in a very limited manner. So so when it's really close to consumption, 20 kilometers, and then it goes as low as a walking pace. And then it consumes the entire battery. Lights remain open for safety reasons. It's not for safety reasons, actually, because in electric cars, we don't really have single battery here. We have different batteries there, too. So you basically have the lights, you have your lights or the first aid button you have there, and there is not a problem with that. So on average, the closest charging stations will be there for you. So when we have a look at the network in Europe, you can see, so even the deadliest spot to other areas, you can basically find charging stations. But this network isn't available in Turkey at the moment. Well, we have high numbers of charging units in vacation destinations, but other than that, we have a DC station for every 100 kilometers. By the way, one question that we receive a lot is as follows. It is something that people speak. So when there is an 8-year warranty for a battery, is this enough? But how many of you really have an 8-year car? Well, do you modify the engine? Well, do you pay anything for the servicing of it? So an 8 year of life cycle, it doesn't mean that the battery will die. So there is the 70% that is set as threshold. So the 8 year warranty is only then available. So it may not even go as below as 70% at the end of the 8 year period. But if there is any levels below 70%, then there is something else. But 8 year is a significant life cycle because the average replacement time period is only 2 years in Europe, and in Turkey it's only 4 years. So in a way, 8 years is quite enough. I'm not talking about the life cycle of the entire car. We're talking about the batteries. We have one other question. This has to do with the old tests. Well, it was actually related with the cars as well. So this was a test that was done internally, WLT, WLTP. These are more open. This is the control of the European Commission close to the truth. It is again the laboratory. So RD is what it's called. So there is a box, huge box, so the emissions outside the exhaust, so everything is collected there. So 300 km is the test that is conducted there. And what we do there is the real range the tests. Hybrids, by the way, hybrids, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to end. One thing that needs to be underscored, it's a great solution for electric cars, the real range tests that is conducted. Well, this is different than the planned pilots, people who use the cars. This is actually selected from among the amateurs. They are selected randomly. A new test cycle is to be established. So RDE will be done, and on top of it, a real range test will be conducted. So there will be 3 blocks of testing stages there. Brands oppose that, but the Commission is the iron fist here, so it will basically determine everything. So the intercity, motorway, mountain roads, elevation, so slope. So we need to take this into account. We have one question here. Well, let's talk about European Commission, brands, marketing, production processes, and its effect on the climate. Well, yes, we focus on the environmentalist dimension of it, but the production plants, authorized dealers, so production process is important. So in the production process, the pieces, components are important. The tires, the lights, and the windows. So this is all about the assembly, right? And where we take it, do they really match? Do they really fit? Well, great. It's a great subject. It's a great subject actually. Green Deal is what we are talking about, and will it be enough? I mean, will our money be enough? So the European Commission, 77 trillion euro. I think, well, 77. It's not billion. It's 7 trillion euros. Actually, well, this actually is a long-term figure. But the entire supply industry, anything that feeds an automobile, well, they have to be environmentalist as well. So CO2 emissions, minimizing it and even eliminating it, it is an obligatory task for them. It's because if you don't do it, you can't even provide any parts to automobile brands. So cars have to be assembled and manufactured with the Green Deal. So if you can't transform yourself accordingly, significant problems will be encountered. And there will be subsidies provided to supply part industry. Money is provided to them. I don't know if there is such a subsidy. Well, carbon trade may be something else. Well, this is something else too. You may want to talk about it afterward, because like Green Deal, when it is there 100%, these cars will be truly environmentally friendly. But the electricity consumed will have to be green as well. Synthetic electricity is a choice here. The electricity coming from wind farms or the flows within the ocean. So it's not going to be enough. So new nuclear plants will be established, as mentioned by Macron. Maybe this is where we're headed. The plants in Turkey, manufacturing plants, and the supply part industry. It's also provided to Europe. Well, all the brands in Turkey, they all export to Europe. So we have to do it. Well, it has to transform, right? Well, brand X, is such a big investment. If they have the budget to implement it, it has to be questioned very seriously. So, because the plant being shut down again and being reestablished again according to the Green Deal, this is such a big figure, because the system has to um, change. So, Turkish Bosch plant, how will it do when a German counterpart is doing it? So the brand that is annoyed with you, we know what happened to them. So there is goodness in every bad. So the scandal that took place, so maybe this is how it happened. Electric cars became an agenda item. No, it's not the case. The scandal, was it really triggered by another brand to get the spotlight? This is something that I'm considering. Well, it's not really the case, because Volkswagen, uh, well, it was something that was tested. Well, Volkswagen, there are cars that are even more polluters. For example, pickups. For example, they sell like hotcakes at the moment. 2.5 million. Only F150. They are all polluters. What matters here is Volkswagen, and that it was promoted as clean. Green diesel is what I'm using. This was the ad. This was the motto that they said. How can diesel be clean? How can it be green? It was a university in California, and then they realized that it wasn't even green. It wasn't even clean. It was reported to the environmental agency, etc., and then it was reported. So in a way, it wasn't a lie, but it was a misstatement, or it was a misleading commercial. But the electrification had already started back then, even prior to that. Well, for those who don't know it, a small reminder is as follows: the industry, diesel emission, the key essence of that, the measurements conducted in laboratories. The car was below the specs. Carbon dioxide and other hazardous gases were being emitted, but all of these cars were polluting the air 40 times higher than they reported. So Dieselgate scandal took place like this. It wasn't only a single brand. It was Mercedes. It was Hyundai. Well, it was, with the exception of one or two brands, Japanese brands, well, not necessarily brands, but models, let's talk about, because companies developing this technology, the components of them are involved in that. Well, ANDC, this system was eliminated. WLTP was adopted very quickly, and the most important reason for that is as follows. Well, the outdoor emission measurements. So, there was a system produced by Bosch. Am I being really mean? Well, because I'm naming a brand here, the system developed by Bosch. No, everything has been already not strapped. For example, is patented by them. It works there for 15 minutes, and then it's low emission. The car has low emissions, but when it's on the road, well, it changes. Well, this is where transformation starts. Actually, we have to be part of this transformation. Any other question? You're more than welcome. I came here in the past 30 minutes. And there are warranty processes. And is there any protective regulations related with that, or anything that needs to be taken into account here? One thing I'd like to say here for the legislation, I'll give the floor back to you. As for normal autos, electric cars are a little bit more sensitive. And if it were me, while buying second-hand cars, was there any accident or not? Please pay extra attention to that. Well, I would buy it by paying attention to that. Any protective regulation? Well, one thing that you need to pay attention to is the charging power of that. Well, it is possible to have it measured, and the year, the age, because in a conventional car, a 40-year-old car, you can get it and you can drive it easily. But in electric cars, well, at least picking a 5 or 4-year-old car would probably reduce or lower the charging station, and it's important for you. But you may have liked it, a 10-year electric car. If you liked it, you can get it. But it's more important to buy 3 or 4-year-old electric car. And the market is a 10-year-old market. It started out 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And one thing that we saw in the meantime was that, well, until 2016, our ranges were 250 kms, and our charging periods were 3 to 6 hours. And now we have 450 range in terms of age, well, 600 we have and 300 we have, but the average is 450, and the charging changes from 5 to 35 minutes. So the technology is evolving at a very fast pace, and the age and the charging power is very important for your choice. An authorized expert company, appraisal company, is there a company like that? The industry is taking or having its roots right now. We see it. I believe that the brands themselves will report on it in a better manner because they know the entire history of a car. So it's more important to get information from the brand itself. This is something that you need to do. But there are many brands being imported at the moment. You may want to take it to their own services. Well, maybe it's better that people don't buy it because cars without with a lack of spare parts, or a cars that lack an authorized service dealer, well, doing it would mean that you're jumping into an abyss. 10 years ago, only two brands had electric models, but now we have around 20 models, and they're registered now. And one thing that pushed it was the gray market, unfortunately, because consumers liked that market. I don't agree with that because the brand is actually TOBB. When the rumors first started, there was a great attention to electric cars because gray market roadster, Tesla roadster, for example, gray market brought it in for 6 years in front of the showroom. The vehicle was there, lying there idle. Thank you very much. If you have any last question, if not, we're going to close it. There are many parts being replaced. So this replacement, will it really have an impact on the rigidity or how robust a car has? Well, it doesn't have any difference compared to conventional cars. Are you talking about the pieces, parts replaced after accidents? In the seminars, well, 2,000 pieces, parts aren't really available in these cars. So the replacement parts, the damage that the car gets, and to what extent it can impact a driver. Well, no, it has nothing to do with it. The original parts, if these are replaced by an authorized service dealer, we were talking about one thing today actually. BMW iX made a launch in Turkey, and the same buffer, and I saw that the same buffer is being produced in Turkey. We're talking about plastic pieces in that limited area, but the resistant points may differ. I'm not even talking about steel aluminum. Even in plastic parts, it may even look even, but you have different intensities and densities inside it, soft points and weak points and hard points. If a supply industry is the one that produces it, in this case there will be an impact on the rigidity, so you have to use the original part. This is quite an important detail. I focus on that each and every time because we're not really talking about a simple part. It involves a certain engineering. This is not even water for the wipers.
2000 tane parçayı çıkaracaklar ya.
Evet.
O parçalar çıktıktan sonra güvenlikle ilgili bir problem olmaz mı?
Onu mu soruyorsunuz? Bakın 2000 parça aslında şöyle.
2000 pieces. Well, this is what we see by looking at it actually. In electric cars, there are many electronic modules and circuits. Shall we call it? Shall we consider it? Because this is like 10 times or 20 times higher than that in electric cars. But they are integrated as they are there, involved in it. The moving parts there, this is limited. Well, there is no pistols or cranks or etc. So there's no buffer there. The number of moving parts, normal other parts are the same though. There is nothing extra there. It may be a design from scratch. In these cars, the number of parts may be different, but for electric cars, the moving parts, this is really limited in number. But if you're looking at electronic parts compared to thermal cars, it's 100% higher. Well, more parts are processed there. By the way, I'm going to give the floor to other people, but there is something that's quite critical here. It's actually software. So I was talking about it, the testing process behind it. Normally, electric cars are used here, but where are you drawing your force or power? Battery. And there are 5 companies producing this, and each and every one of them, 17 global brands, see the batteries for that. So they have to have a very wide range. So when a car gives range, the other doesn't really do that. So the biggest difference between them, because the same battery producer they're using, what matters here is the software. So the critical part is the software here, the profile, the using habits, or the conditions of driving. Rather than these things, the software module is quite important. So motor, driver, and control unit, they're important too. So the modules are used, but why does it really cover more than 20 km? Well, the aerodynamics is important, the suspension is important, the battery freezing units are quite important, because this has to do with automobile brands, auto brands. Because when you're talking about a particular brand, you're revving it up, you're speeding it up, and then you enter a charging station, but you can't even charge it in the optimal level. 80%, you don't even have it. 22 centigrades. It can depend on the brand. 22 battery temperature. It needs to first reach 22 centigrades, and you do it with the software. So the software, when the car sees that the battery is low, you pick a charging station. The point in Akhisar, where are you? You started off from Bursa. 60 km is in front of you. For 60 km, the freezing system of the battery, 22 Celsius degrees, is what the components are trying to achieve there. And 80% is the pace of it. So if it's 30, you can't do it. For 18 Celsius degrees, you can't do it. 100% charging isn't something that you can attain. So the charging pace is really low for the protection of the battery. So this is another thing. So what I'm trying to say here is that the freezing system, even the software of it, is extra important. The last question, let's take the last question because we don't want to take much of your time. Well, my question is about the name of the exhibition. We say Automechanika, but for the past 5 minutes, we're talking about Autoelectronica. So when we have a look at the supply parts industry of this industry, when we have a look at the ratio of native or indigenous products, we see that electronic parts are rising at the moment. Well, we have well-recognized suppliers, we have great workforce. What kind of transformation do we need so that the cars produced domestically can have a high ratio of indigenous parts as well? So we would like to get your recommendation. And Tehat, for example, or the owners of the capital or auto producers, there are different stakeholders here, but what kind of a support can be extended for such transformation? One thing that I said after Perkan, Renault Group CEO Luca De Meo said the following: those who can keep up with transformation will survive, otherwise they will be annihilated, he said. It was very clear, it was quite precise. Well, this transformation, subvention producers, for example, they don't have any problem whatsoever. The wheel producers, they will have more dynamic wheels, and the friction may be a little bit lower, for example, for tire producers. And for steering wheels, for example, they will need more time. We have the steering wheel. It may actually be eliminated in the future, but there is a shift towards that. For level 4, yes, you sit like that there, but you may need to take the steering wheel. For level 3, that is the case. For level 5, we will be actually sitting in other points of the car, but there are other limitations and confines there. Level 5 is still not something that is attained or achieved. I believe that it is much more difficult than imagined. So the supply industry, as a journalist, and I would like to say the following: the producers and European supply part producers. What does Bosch say here? The person behind the R&D department of Bosch. I had a chance to have a conversation with them in Munich. You are the brand of years, I said, and you're turning into an electronics or software brand, he said. Even before I finished my question, he interrupted me. We've been great at electronics for years. We're even improving ourselves, he said. So this is how he actually put it. So the mechanical parts producer of mechanical parts, or the parts about the gripping, there is no problem about it whatsoever. There will be the wipers, for example. We will have a front window as well, but the cars will be lower weight, will be the more lightweight. It'll be more aerodynamic, that's for sure. And high torque electric engines will be supported by different moving parts. This will be something that needs to be taken into account. Seat producers, for example, they will have more anatomic seats. Dashboard producers will have to opt for digital or high definition digital, or maybe they will have to run in integration with infotainment systems, with AI systems. Well, my recommendation to everybody is that watch sci-fi, because we're living in a sci-fi movie. Well, maybe this is something that we've seen for Tesla Model 3. It was 2016, I believe, when I talked about it. the Mercedes premium model and Tesla Model 3, I actually put them side by side, and Mercedes everywhere you saw was mechanical buttons, etc., whereas Tesla Model 3 there were only 13 buttons, and you couldn't even imagine back then. It wouldn't really sell, we used to say. And the brands on the screen, they're even inaccurate. We're very used to analog screens. So imagine you're doing it on the digital screen to turn on the AC 33 centigrades, but you're still driving there. How do you really do it? I really don't understand. This requires certain skill. But this is actually a voice remote control. Hey, Mercedes, hey, BMW, this is what you need to say, right? So it may have been very warm, turn it off, we'll turn it on. This may be these voice commands, but this is something that they did. So we need to be innovative there, and we have to draw inspiration from sci-fi, because the sci-fi that we watch, tireless wheels, even them are sold in the States at the moment, at least. Well, maybe it'll be serial production. Well, yes, Automechanika is the name of this fair, but Autoelectronica is going to be its name. Maybe we don't know that, but the fact that this area has been established, this is the real purpose behind it. How will it really show the way? Tehat, or there is no organization like Tehat at the moment, so we're trying to promote electric cars, but Automechanika is providing this opportunity, and had it not been the case, we wouldn't be talking here. So we see the opportunities, and there are people who are promoting these opportunities. But if we don't really open our way for it, open the doors for it, in this case, there will not be any room for us to develop. In a way, we missed a train. So we always want to catch the light, get the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's the train, the light of which you're seeing, and maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, it will seemingly be a train. So it will apparently be a train. And finally, in the charging stations, in terms of that, we provide our opinion there, we provide reports, and in line with it, charging stations, there will be legislation there, so there will be a law there, and the shortcomings will be addressed accordingly. So this is something that we're trying to actually achieve. And last but not least, there is this great example and this exhibition, and Castrol is a sponsor here. Old oil brands, they're now producing the liquids for electric cars, and they're transforming themselves at the moment. This is the greatest example of that, and they will be talking about it tomorrow. E-mobility conference, and Castrol is here. It's quite important. So everybody will act similarly. Watch sci-fi, because they're on the way. Thank you very much for your time, for taking the time.
Okan abi bir fotoğraf çekilelim seninle.
Olur.
Emre'cim fotoğraf çekebilir misin?
Çekilelim. Şunları çıkarsak ya. Çıkartmayalım mı? Peki.
Sesi kısa.